Okay, at this point in time, I think there's a lot of people wondering why there's this lone Green Beret running around on the battlefield in Ramadi.
Are we going? Stand by. We got to get accountability first. 4-1.
Long story short, I was the senior officer advisor to the Iraqi Counterterrorism Force Sniper Detachment. When we had time between other missions, we were basically guns for hire for other units that were having issues in their area of operations. Units around Iraq would put out a request for sniper support to help solve their IED, their Mad Mortarman, their whatever problem, and we would go out and help them solve that problem. My job was to fly in early, link up with the chain of command, get the intel, try to develop some operations, push the intel back to the sniper detachment, and then they would either accept the mission or not. And then I would receive them when they came in to get ready to run ops. I was pulled into the office mid-May and asked if the detachment wanted to head over to Ramadi. I was told that Ramadi was going to be this long battle. We were getting ready to take back the Anbar province with General Petraeus. I was also told this wasn't going to be an in and out mission, that we could probably stay out in Ramadi as long as we wanted, that everything was getting ready to flow that direction anyways. After accepting the mission, I was told we'd be going to Camp Corregidor and linking up with the 101st. I was also told that key terrain in the area was the hospital and that we needed to focus our efforts on gathering intel on the hospital. I flew out to Ramadi late in the evening on the 26th of May, linked up with the battalion commander, S3, S2, got my brief, and then was told I'd be joining all the forces over in a building called Full Metal Jacket, which was across the compound from the 101st. I was introduced to the commander of SEAL Team 3, who escorted me over to the building, Full Metal Jacket, and I spent a few days in their hooch hanging out with them until I got some sleeping quarters of my own. After a day or two of going over intel with the S2, S3, talking to some of the guys in Full Metal Jacket, it was decided that ECP-8 was the location I needed to get to. I was given access to the battalion commander's driver and vehicle, and we headed that direction on the 28th. From this point forward, all the notes you see on the pictures and videos are the actual notes I put on them to send to the team.
So I showed up first of all, I fly into Ramadi, into the HLZ on Camp Corregidor. Dark as shit, get out of the helicopter, go into the first of the 506 headquarters, meet the battalion commander, S2, S3, get the brief. And they wanted us to focus on the hospital in Ramadi.
Sure.
The Mouge had the hospital. It was the highest terrain in town. I don't know how many floors it was. I got pictures of it. I'd have to look. But from the hospital, it was commanding terrain. They were using it as a base. They were storing ammunition. They were running ops out of that, and it was in contested territory for sure. But we definitely didn't have that key piece of terrain, and that was part of we're going to take Ramadi back. We're going to take back the Anbar province. We've got to get that hospital. So they sent us in, the ICTF, Iraqi Counterterrorism Force snipers, to collect intel on that for a future raid into that zone, but onto that hospital. Right. And the ICTF was going to be involved, so with door kickers.
Sure.
How many rooms are in a hospital? Yeah. Floor by floor. It's got to be cleared from the top down, bottom up.
Right.
So I get in, and that night I link up with the SEAL team commander, and then I'm sleeping with the SEALs, which is a great story. There's a lot of stories come out of that, but he takes me back to their SEAL hooch, and it's just like watching SEAL team. You know, we've been watching SEAL team, but those guys, they made furniture out of like AT4 containers and grenade boxes and everything. So I show up to the SEAL hooch, and he walks me in. He introduces me to the SEAL team. I can't remember what platoon it was. You know, Bravo platoon, Charlie platoon, whatever. But shake everybody's hand. It's late in the evening. Everybody's getting ready to go to bed. They had taken plywood and everything. You know, I mean, the building was just crap.
Right.
Had been blown up. It's all dusty in there. But the SEALs had taken plywood and everything, made little cubicles for each other. They had their own little space with their little, you know, pin-up magazine,
Right.
posters in there and everything. They had one couch facing the center with a big old screen TV that they would watch TV at. But over against the wall, here's the electrical box. And it looked like there was wires. Everybody in that building, in every room, and the building was called Full Metal Jacket, had a wire going into that box to their room.
Right.
Because that was where the electricity was coming into the building. And here's this big thing, looks like a bed, but it's all AT4s and grenade boxes and everything. It's live ammo, and it's all stacked. It's right in front of the thing, and it's flat. It looks like a cot. So I roll up my stuff, put my stuff on there, and I'm sleeping on top of this stack of AT4s and grenades. And in the middle of the night, I'm laying there, and I'm like, I hear pop, 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 crack, 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 and I'm like, I smell this acrid odor, and I look over, and the electric box is on fire. And I'm sitting on top of a bunch of explosives, and I'm like, holy shit, fire! Outrun all these Navy SEALs, buck-ass naked with fire extinguishers, and they're all like...
Sounds like they knew it had happened before.
Maybe, I don't know. But that's where I started finding out about SEAL Team 3 and what they were doing. They were doing at FID, so they were linked in with the Iraqis. That's,
Yep.
The camp for the Iraqis was right down the street. And that was their main mission. And I was like, okay, I linked in, I met him, and I'm like, okay, you're doing FID. But within 24 to 48 hours, there's a intersection, five-way intersection. They called it ECP8, and they had blocked off 3 roads.
Right.
And they had 2 roads going through, and every vehicle going through the ECP was checked. You know, okay, get
Sure.
out of the vehicle, open up your hood, open up the back, we're gonna inspect your vehicle. Okay, where are you going, what are you doing? And the battalion commander's vehicle, battalion commander's driver, and a couple other vehicles, and we were gonna head out to ECP 8 because that was the closest location, closest friendly location to the hospital to observe it from, to get something. And then, like, I'm making basically a mission packet that I'm gonna send back to Area 4, to the snipers.
Right.
So they can, you know, accept the mission, they can pick a building if they're gonna go forward and set up a sniper observation position and observe the hospital for 24 or 48 hours, gather intel for a future raid. So I'm hanging out with the driver and the guys, and that's where I started getting intel on, like, the rules of engagement for Ramadi, which I'd never heard of. I'd been in country for a couple months already, and I'd already been in Ras Tamia, already been in Taji, already been in Mahmadiyah, and I'd never heard rules of engagement like this. But Ramadi was the Wild West. It was the Wild West. If you wanted to get in a gunfight, you went to Ramadi. You know, it was like the old westerns. You know, I got my guns and I'm going to this town because I want to get in a gunfight. That was it. But these guys, they had some really crazy rules of engagement, and one of them was if you observed anybody with a set of binoculars and they were looking at your position through a set of binoculars, you could kill them. That one makes sense to me, and I'm like, okay, that makes sense.
Right.
But the other one was cell phone. If you saw somebody, that's the whole, like, Warfare, the movie Warfare. If you go see Warfare, I went and saw it with my father. There's a scene in there where they're in an outpost, they're in a sniper position, and he's observing a guy with a cell phone in the middle of the streets in Ramadi, and that's kind of for me, that was a fallacy in the movie, because they would have shot that guy. Now the only reason I'm thinking they wouldn't want to shoot the guy is because it's middle of the day.
Right.
And they're like, they don't want to blow their place out. They're there maybe to gather intel. But when I was there, open use of a cell phone and then observing your location, everybody in that town, I was like, so you have rules of engagement like this, do the people know that? And they're like, yeah, this has been put out. Everybody in this town of Ramadi knows. Don't use binoculars and don't openly use your cell phone. If you want to use your cell phone, do it inside your house Do it in your backyard, but do it somewhere. But don't be out in the street, walking down the street with your cell phone, because
Right.
you will be shot. I was like, wow, okay.
It's different.
Good to know. So we jump in the battalion commander's Humvee, we drive out to ECP8, show up on site, again, 5-way intersection, get out of the vehicle. It's all weird because they've got HESCO baskets and everything blocking off the other intersection and everything. You can see the 506 guys managing traffic, running vehicles and everything. And he guides me up on top of, they have this sniper hooch
Yeah.
up on top of one of the roads, monitoring, they call it Market Street or whatever. There's like a taxi stand down there, and a market section, and I get up in there, and I get up into the location, and I notice like 2 or 3 things immediately. First thing, there's not 18 inches of overhead cover. They've got plywood and like a tarp covering it a little bit. There were some sandbags holding like the plywood down, but when
Right.
you got inside, you could look at the plywood, 3/4 inch plywood. You could see the holes in the plywood from shrapnel, from stuff blowing up
Right.
and penetrating the plywood. And I'm like, okay, there's no 18 inches overhead cover, so these guys are exposed. 2, as soon as you kneel down and you get into the sniper position, it's long like this, and it's facing forward down that street. The only person behind the weapon system was an Iraq soldier, Iraqi army guy. And I look left, I'm looking, and he's behind a rifle and he's facing down the street, and I'm like, I look right, and here's all these 506 guys. No body armor, no helmet, nothing. And then I meet this young man, he looked, I mean, I'm 36 at that time.
Right.
I've been in the Army for 17 years. I'm a captain. I'm running around on the battlefield, you know, doing whatever. But there were things that I was like, here's this, he just looked so young. 18, 19-year-old kid with a sniper rifle there. And I sat there, the spotter scope was set up, you had the Iraqi with a sniper, you had this sniper, and then you had some of the 506 guys. And now I got in a conversation, and I was like, what's up? I get what's going on. Tell me a little bit about what's going on. He's like, well, we're part of the Brigade Sniper Detachment.
Okay.
And so the 506, first of the 506, 1st Battalion 506 Infantry out of Fort Campbell, 101st, was allocated the Brigade Sniper Detachment for their unit to run on a corregidor. And what they were supposed to be doing is when they would do cordon and searches downtown,
Right.
the brigade snipers would take the rooftops. There's always 2 levels to the fight, the street fight and the rooftop fight. You've got to get up to the roof as soon as you can. As soon as the bullets start flying, you've got to get up to the roof, and you have to maintain, because you got to control that airspace.
Sure.
So that's what the 506, the Brigade Sniper Detachment was supposed to be doing in the AO. And we were all sleeping in the same hooch. So that building, Full Metal Jacket, had the Navy SEALs, it had ANGLICO, it had now me, it had the ICTF was getting ready to roll in, you had the combat cameramen, you had the Marines that were supporting SEAL Team 3 in any capacity, plus the ANGLICO drivers, security, and then you had the Brigade Sniper Detachment was in that building also. The cool thing about Full Metal Jacket is they had on top, we had our own shooting position. So the guys could, and we had a range, we had like a 300 or 400 meter range right on post, you know?
Right.
There was like this separation on post. 506, if you split the triangle right down the center, the 506 was on that side, and then there was Full Metal Jacket and all the ash and trash, and we were all over here.
Yeah.
And it was a blast in that building, because it was all like, here's the cool guys from the Marines, here's the cool guys from the Navy, here's the cool guys from the Army.
Right.
You got Air Force popping in and out, and it was just, we just had a blast, because we do what we want. But, so here's these Brigade Snipers, and I'm like, well, what are you guys doing here? And they're like, well, when SEAL Team 3 came in, they went to the battalion commander, and they asked if they could start supporting sniper support on that rooftop fight. And they took that mission away from the Brigade Snipers. So now these Brigade Snipers who are supposed to be there doing that mission, an infantry mission, supporting an infantry assault into town to do a cordon search or attack by fire, whatever your mission was for that day, it was supposed to be 506 Brigade Snipers. But now you've got SEALs that are doing FID. Their main mission is FID, Foreign Internal Defense. You're supposed to be going down the street and training the Iraqi forces in, you know, military tactics.
Right.
And now, every time there's a mission to do code on search, the SEALs are doing an alternate mission. They're moonlighting this sniper mission. So I started to put two and two together. You start to look at the performance of the Iraqis, or lack thereof,
Right.
because there's nobody 100% focusing on that mission.
On that training, you know.
And then you start looking at, you know, the brigade snipers are farmed out, and you got a sniper in ECP8, you got a sniper over here, you got a sniper over here, but they're not doing the mission that they really were requested and brought in for.
Right.
And I was like, oh, okay, this is interesting. So I'm at site and I'm sitting there, and there's a table with the spotter scope on it, and I'm on site. I take my helmet off, join the guys. You know, they ain't got their stuff on, so I'll bring it down a notch. You know, I'll bring the level down, join the guys in their stuff. I get behind the spotter scope and I start observing down through the street, and you can see down about 150, 200 meters up. There's a taxi stand, and all the vehicles would be parked on one side. Taxis would pull up, let people out. Taxis would, you know, pick people up, turn around. They had to turn around.
Right,
You
to
couldn't
get
come
back
through
out.
here. There was barriers. You know, they had the stacked barriers. You're not
Right.
coming through this way. And these guys are watching that way. And I look down there, and I see this guy. The first thing I notice is the Iraqis, typical Iraqi, did not have a beard. Iraqis had the Saddam Hussein mustache. They didn't have the cool guy beards, you know. If you saw a guy with a beard, you're like, whoa. So I looked down through the intersection. The Iraqis wore man jams. You know, your standard Iraqi loose fit clothing for the hot. It was hot, humid. So I look down there and I see, starting off, I see one guy, and then because I see one guy, it immediately clues me into another guy. And I see this guy, he's got a red plaid shirt on, short sleeve, and it's down to his waist. It looks Western to me, and he's wearing blue jeans.
Right.
And he's got a really nice, trimmed up beard. And the one thing that drew me to him was he had a washcloth on his head. You know, so he's got this washcloth. This doesn't fit, but if you can picture it, he's got this washcloth over his head, and it's hanging over his ears like this, a towel. You know.
Right.
And I'm watching him now. You have to put yourself in perspective. I just rolled up to these positions. These guys were waiting for lunch to show up.
Right.
They're not really pulling security. You got an Iraqi over here, which I don't trust anyways.
Right.
If your only security is an Iraqi behind a rifle, like no. Like 50% for me is not an Iraqi. 50% for me is at least one American is looking down range and an Iraqi to back him up, because I don't trust that he's going to do his job. So I'm looking through the spotter scope. I'm looking through the spotter scope like this, and I'm looking, and I start snapping some photos. I got my thing, and I'm looking down there, and I'm like, okay, boom. I start snapping some images, and I'm looking at this guy. I never took any images of the guy with the towel over his head, but he's moving back and forth. And what happened was they had taken trucks. In the normal taxi stand that you would see taxis rolling up, they had taken these white trucks, they had stacked them to the hilt with these yellow crates, so you could not see. So you had 2 or 3 white trucks, and for me that was another indicator, because we had been studying terrorism, and the Mujahideen, or they call it AQI, Al Qaeda Iraq.
Yeah.
White vehicles. The white vehicle was an indicator because they like to rent white vehicles. I don't know if the white stands for purity and all the other stuff, but in Bosnia and Europe and all the other places we went, they always rented white vehicles. So here I am, I'm looking at like 6 white vehicles, and there's a maroon vehicle parked right in the center of all 6 of them. And there's one guy in Western clothes who's got a towel over his head, is moving back and forth behind these trucks. And guys would come and talk to him, and then they would leave. Guys would come and talk to him, and they would leave. He would step out from behind the vehicle, and he was doing this. So he's got the towel on the side of his head like this. You know, you can see his face, but you can't see his ear. And for me, I think he had an earpiece in. And he would go like this, and then he would go like this.
Right.
And he would go like this, and then he would go like this. The sniper, the young sniper from the Brigade Sniper Detachment, he's sitting there, sitting next to his rifle. I'm sitting behind the spotter scope, and I'm looking through, and I'm watching this. And I look at him, and I look at the sniper, I'm like, hey, you mind if I get behind the sniper rifle? And he's like, no, go ahead. So I get down, I get behind the sniper rifle, and I get a good shooting position. I'm sitting there, now I'm observing, because he's got more magnification than the spotter scope.
Right.
And here I am behind the scope, and now I can magnify. So now I'm like, I zoom it right in on the guy, and I'm looking, I'm trying to see if I can see a wire. I'm trying to see if I can see the foam.
Right.
But these guys would keep, like, they'd look at us and then they'd turn away. They'd look at us and then they would turn away. And then the other thing was, remember, I saw two guys. The guy with the red shirt, blue jeans, with the beard. And I'm thinking Jordanian or Syrian.
Okay.
I'm starting to think, I'm definitely thinking insurgents. And I'm thinking these guys are not Iraqi. They're either Syrian or Jordanian, and they're in here, they're doing something funky. But the guy with the blue shirt, the guy with the red shirt and the washcloth, the guy with the blue shirt walks over and stands behind, underneath this overhead cover thing, and he turns and faces directly at us and doesn't move. He just stands there. No binoculars, nothing. He's just standing there facing us. And I'm like, that's weird. So I wanted to get a closer look at him. So I'm behind the sniper rifle and I'm looking down there, and I see the guy with the washcloth, and I look at the guy with the other thing, and and my thumb goes like this, click. I click the safety off on the rifle, and the brigade sniper's like, hey ho, hey sir, what are you doing? And I'm like, I take it off. I just wanted to get his attention, but he's like, whoa, I was like, I got some suspicious movement downtown. Now, again, there's nobody doing anything.
Right.
There's nobody pulling security. They're all smoking and joking. They're all looking at magazines. There's nobody facing downrange. I roll up to position, and I'm identifying suspicious activity. So he's like, hey, give me the rifle, talk me on to whatever. So I get up, I get behind the spotter scope. I'm like, I start telling him what I see. I got a guy, I got blue jeans, I got shirts, boom, he's got a washcloth on his head. Do you see it? He's like, yeah, I see it. And immediately, every time I would talk him out of the thing, here's a brigade sniper behind a rifle. Guess what he wants to do? 18, 19-year-old kid. He wants to shoot that guy, like now. He wants permission. So that's the number one time out of like 10 or 15 times that he requested. He's like, you want me to shoot him? I'm like, no. I'm like, you can't shoot that guy. He didn't give us a reason to shoot him yet, you know? I was like, just hold on. So he's down there, he's itching at the thing to shoot his rifle. And I'm behind the spotter. That's when I really started taking kind of photos of the area and stuff and these guys. And what crazy happened now is the guy with the red shirt with washcloth on his head, he walks from the maroon vehicle. He goes behind the vehicles, and then he comes out again. He walks right over to the guy with the blue shirt.
Right.
And now, instead of like two guys coming and facing each other and having a conversation, even if they're 45 degrees, he walks up to the guy and he faces away from him like this.
Okay.
So he's facing this way and he's facing this way. And that's weird. You know, I got indicators popping. You know, my fuzzy hair, I'm standing up on my neck, my radar's pinging. I'm like, indicator, indicator, indicator. And the sniper goes, you want me to shoot him? And I'm like, no, you can't shoot him. And they're standing there facing away from each other, and they're having a conversation. You can look through, you can see their mouths going. This guy would talk, and then this guy would talk. At no point in time do they look at each other while they're talking. Two men don't do that. Both of them are dressed blue jeans, crazy shirts. Everybody else is running around in man jams. And I'm like, something's not right here. I was looking, and I said, there was a guy on the radio, and I said, do me a favor. Call back to the intersection behind us and ask them if they've got any suspicious activity behind us, because I'm thinking coordinated attack. We're getting ready to get hit from multiple directions, right? And I started looking at the guys, and there was, I think the E4 was the ranking guy, and then the sergeant that I pulled up to the thing. Now Captain Mills is on scene. I've got an E5 driver, but he doesn't, you know, really mix in. He's just sitting there waiting to drive me. So this E4 is kind of in charge, and I was like, you need to tell your guys, the hair's standing back on the back, like, we're getting ready to get hit. You need to tell your guys to kid up. So a couple of the guys reach over, grab their body armor, but then they just sit there. They're still kind of like, you know, rifles are kind of doing this. They're kind of like, what's up with this captain, and why is he all, you know, we've been here all day. We're probably at the end of a 12-hour shift or some crap. They're tired. They just want to go home. So we get on the radio, we call back to the intersection. Did you guys find anything weird back there? They're like, we just found a mortar shell in the middle of the intersection that hadn't exploded.
Right.
And I asked them over the radio. Now I'm a former Ford observer. Did 9 years as a Ford observer. These guys are observing our locations. I got a guy with a washcloth on his head doing this, and I'm like, holy shit! These guys are Ford observers. They're calling indirect fire on us. They've already fired on our position, and there's a dud.
Right.
Very luckily, the first round they fired was a dud. And I asked them, are there cheese charges on the mortar round? Because if it hasn't been fired, there's going to be cheese charges on that. And it just fell out of the back of a truck. If there's no cheese charges on it, and
it's on.
And they're like, no, this is a dud. So they're back there taking care of a dud. And I'm like, holy shit. So we get done doing that, and I'm not kidding you. I go back to the spotter scope like this, and I look through the spot. As soon as I look through the spotter scope, I see the guy with the washcloth. Now he's got it in his hand. The door on the car is open. He takes the washcloth that's wadded up with probably the cell phone and the earpiece, and I'm looking back because I had taken my eyes off. Now I'm back on. I get in the spotter scope, and I see him take it and open the door on the car and throw the stuff in the car, whatever he had.
Right.
And now he doesn't have a washcloth. He's looking around like this. And I'm like, holy shit. And I was like, I screamed to the guys, I was like, get your fucking shit on now. Get your helmets on, get your body armor on, get up, get ready. We are under attack right now. And the sniper's like, you want me to shoot him? And I was like, no, you can't shoot him yet. And I was like, shit. And then I'm like, we've been fired upon. We got a dud mortar round behind us. And then, I'm not kidding you, I turn, and this is all happening now like this. I go back, I look through the spotter scope, I see the guy dive through my field of view into the car.
Right.
Right in front of us, mortar goes off, and it, brown out for a second, and then it starts to clear. I'm like, kill those motherfuckers! And everybody opens up. I joined in, we're all just, dude, if it's moving, it's going down.
Right.
And they hammered, as many of those guys. But the guy in the car, the maroon car, he's doing this, because now they park those vehicles. You see the maroon car trying to get out of there. He's doing this, and he's trying to get out as fast as he can. I'm like, shoot that fucking car. And I'm like, drivers, engines, and tires. I'm like, shoot that fucking car. And he's doing this, pulls out, boom, he's hauling ass down the road like this, and everybody's stitching that car. Shooting the car. He tries to go away, boom. It's over. 30 seconds, 30 seconds of madness.
Right.
Calm. Smoke clears. All the guys are like, guys are reloading magazines, changing shit out. The sniper's down there. And then, boom, sniper sits up. We sit back. And I'm like, whew, wow, what just happened? So I look at the sniper. He starts filling out his sniper log. He's literally sitting there with his legs crossed. Again, 18, 19-year-old kid. Shit-eating grin on his face. Happy as a pig and shit.
Right.
Because he got to shoot somebody. I was like, did you get one of them? And he's like, yeah, I shot the guy with the blue shirt. And I was like, well, how do you know you hit him? And he's like, just wait 10 minutes. Another one of these Ramadi-isms. And we're sitting there, and he feels like he's sitting there filling out his... And around that time, Chow shows up. So
right. Yeah.
It's lunchtime. The Chow truck shows up and hands out pizza. So they got these plates from the DFAC, and everybody gets a plate, and I got a picture of the sniper eating a piece of pizza and filling out his sniper log. 18, 19-year-old kid. And here's 36-year-old, Ricky Mills captain,
right.
Watching these guys in this position. So I was like, well, how do you know? And because there's no bodies, there's nobody laying there. And he's like, just wait 10 minutes, sir. Just wait 10 minutes. I'm like, okay, 10 minutes. And I'm not kidding, 10 minutes later, and they said this happens all the time. I guess the hospital or the facility that they treat the guys that they shoot from that position is on the other side of the road.
Okay.
So 10 minutes after every one of their engagements in this intersection, here comes two guys carrying the guy like this.
Right.
With the blue shirt on, carrying his body across.
Over
to the right side to whatever medical treatment facility.
Right.
And so there's more to that story, which I'm not going to expound upon right now. But yeah, crazy times in Ramadi. And that was my introduction to Ramadi. I'm out there doing a recon. And I ended up after that, I ended up leaving after that and going back because of the situation and everything. And then coming back another day and taking a bunch of pictures for the or the snipers that I passed off to
Right.
the guys. But welcome to Ramadi.
Yeah.
That's a good time. So we got mortared, got the hammer from guys. Crazy stuff.